What if I told you that some of the tiniest foods on this planet are also some of the tiniest foods on this planet are also some of the most powerful? We're not talking about superfoods that need a lab to explain. We're talking about something you've probably got sitting in your kitchen cupboard right now, something you snack on during movie nights, something your grandmother probably swore by for a long, healthy life. And yet most of us have no idea just how incredible these little powerhouses really are. Today we're diving deep into the 15 most powerful nuts on Earth. And by the end of this video, bowl of mixed nuts on your table in a completely different way. So stick around, because this one is packed with fact, history, health science, and a few surprises you probably didn't see coming. So let's start simple. What exactly is a nut? In everyday language, a nut is basically a hard-shelled fruit or seed that we eat for its rich, dense, energy-packed core. And while botanists will tell you that technically only a few of the things we call nuts are actual nuts in the scientific sense, for this video, we're going with the common, everyday understanding, because that's what matters to you and me when we're munching on them. Nuts have been part of human diets for tens of thousands of years, long before agriculture even existed. Early humans were cracking open shells with stones just to get to that nutritious core inside. And that tells you something important. Nuts were never just a snack. They were survival food, packed with fat, protein, and energy that could keep a person going for hours. Number 1. Almonds, probably the most famous nut in the world. Almonds actually originated in the Middle East and South Asia, and today California produces the vast majority of the world's almond supply, which is honestly kind of wild when you think about how far this little nut has traveled. Almonds are grown on trees that blossom with beautiful pink and white flowers in early spring, and after pollination, mostly done by bees, the tree produces a fuzzy green fruit that eventually dries out to reveal the almond shell inside. Nutritionally, almonds are loaded with vitamin E, magnesium, and healthy monounsaturated fats, and they've been linked to better heart health, lower cholesterol, and even improved skin because of that vitamin E content. A lot of people think almonds will make you gain weight because they're high in fat, but that's actually a misconception. Studies show that eating almonds in moderation can actually support weight management because they keep you feeling full for longer. Number 2, walnuts. And if almonds are the popular kid, walnuts are the brainy one, quite literally, because they even look like little brains. And interestingly, they are one of the best plant-based sources of omega-3 fatty acids, which are essential for brain function. Walnuts originated in Persia, that's modern-day Iran, and they've been cultivated for over 8,000 years, which makes them one of the oldest tree foods known to humans. China is now the largest producer of walnuts today, followed by the United States. What makes walnuts so powerful is their unique combination of antioxidants and omega-3 fats, which research has linked to improved memory, reduced inflammation, and better heart health. A common myth is that all nuts have the same type of fat, but walnuts are actually one of the few nuts with a significant amount of alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 that your body can't produce on its own. Number 3, pistachio, the nut with the cool green color and the fun cracking sound when you split the shell open. Pistachios originated in Central Asia and the Middle East, particularly in regions of modern-day Iran and Turkey, and they've been enjoyed for thousands of years, even mentioned in ancient texts as a royal delicacy. The United States, particularly California and Iran, are the 2 biggest producers today. Pistachios stand out because they're lower in calories compared to many other nuts while still being rich in protein, fiber, and antioxidants like lutein and zeaxanthin, which are amazing for eye health. There's actually a fun psychological trick here too. Because pistachios are sold in their shell, the process of cracking them open naturally slows down how fast you eat them, which can help with portion control without you even realizing it. Number 4, cashew, that curved, buttery, slightly sweet nut. That's a favorite in both sweet and savory dishes around the world. Cashews are native to Brazil, believe it or not, and they were later spread by Portuguese explorers to places like India and parts of Africa, where they are now heavily cultivated. Interestingly, the cashew we eat grows at the bottom of a fruit called the cashew apple, and the nut itself is enclosed in a hard shell that contains a caustic resin, which is why raw cashews in their shells are never sold directly to consumers. They have to be carefully processed and roasted first to remove that irritant. Cashews are rich in copper, magnesium, and zinc, all of which play major roles in immune function, energy production, and bone health. A common misconception is that cashews are unhealthy because they taste rich and creamy, but they actually have less fat than most other nuts and are considered one of the healthier options for heart health. Number 5. Macadamia nut, often considered the luxury nut of the bunch because of their price tag. Macadamias originated in Australia, and they were actually one of the last major nut crops to be commercially developed, with Hawaii later becoming a huge hub for macadamia farming after it was introduced there in the late 1800s. What makes macadamia nuts unique is their incredibly high fat content, mostly monounsaturated fat, which gives them that rich, buttery texture. And they're also one of the few natural food sources of a specific fatty acid called palmitoleic acid, which has been studied for its potential role in metabolism. Macadamias require an enormous amount of pressure to crack their shells, which is part of why they're more expensive. The shells are actually one of the hardest of any nut in the world. Number 6. Brazil nuts, which might just be the most nutrient-dense nut on this entire list. Brazil nuts grow in the Amazon rainforest, primarily in Brazil, Bolivia, and Peru. And here's something fascinating. These trees can only be pollinated by a specific type of orchid bee, which means Brazil nuts can't really be farmed in traditional orchards. They mostly still come from wild harvesting in the rainforest. The seeds grow inside a large coconut-like pod that can weigh several pounds, and inside that pod are individual Brazil nuts arranged like orange segments. What makes Brazil nuts so special is their incredibly high selenium content. Just 1 or 2 Brazil nuts can give you your entire daily requirement of selenium, a mineral crucial for thyroid function and immune health. But this is also where the precaution comes in. Eating too many Brazil nuts regularly can actually lead to selenium toxicity, so moderation here is genuinely important, unlike most other nuts on this list. Number 7. Pecans, a nut that's deeply tied to American culinary history, especially in the South. Pecans are native to North America, particularly the Mississippi region, and Native American tribes were harvesting and trading pecans long before European settlers arrived. Today, the United States and Mexico are the largest producers. Pecans are rich in antioxidants, particularly a type called flavonoids, and they've been shown to help reduce oxidative stress in the body. They're also a great source of manganese, which support bone health and metabolism. A lot of people confuse pecans with walnuts because they look somewhat similar, but pecans have a smoother, sweeter flavor and a slightly different fat profile, with more monounsaturated fat compared to walnut. Number 8. Hazelnuts. And you probably know them best from that famous chocolate spread everyone has in their kitchen. Hazelnuts originated in Turkey, and Turkey remains the largest producer in the world by a huge margin even today. Hazelnut trees are actually shrubs rather than tall trees, and they produce clusters of nuts wrapped in a leafy husk. Hazelnuts are packed with vitamin E, folate, and manganese, and they've been associated with improved cardiovascular health due to their high content of oleic acid, the same healthy fat found in olive oil. One thing people often don't realize is that hazelnuts contain more folate than almost any other tree nut, making them particularly beneficial during pregnancy for supporting healthy fetal development. Number 9. Pine nut. The tiny, expensive little nuts that make pesto so delicious. Pine nuts come from certain species of pine tree, and they're harvested from the cones of these trees, a process that is incredibly labor-intensive because the cones have to be collected, dried, and the seeds extracted by hand in many regions, which is a big reason why pine nuts are one of the most expensive nuts in the world. They're primarily sourced from countries like China, Russia, and parts of the Mediterranean. Pine nuts are rich in a specific fatty acid called pinolenic acid, which some research suggests may help suppress appetite, and they're also a great source of iron and magnesium. An interesting fact here is that pine nuts have been eaten by humans for thousands of years, and they're even mentioned in ancient Roman texts as a valuable food source for soldiers because of their high energy density. Number 10. Peanuts. And even though technically Peanuts are legumes and not tree nuts. They're commonly grouped with nuts in everyday conversation, and honestly, leaving them out would be a mistake, given how powerful they actually are nutritionally. Peanuts originated in South America, likely in modern-day Bolivia or Peru, and they later spread to Africa, Asia, and eventually North America through trade and exploration. Unlike tree nuts, peanuts grow underground, which is actually a fascinating process. The plant flowers above ground, but after pollination, the stem bends down and pushes the developing pod into the soil to mature, which is where the name groundnut comes from in many parts of the world. Peanuts are incredibly high in protein compared to most other nuts, making them a favorite among athletes and people looking for plant-based protein sources. And they're also rich in niacin and folate. One big misconception is that peanuts and tree nut allergies are the same thing, but they're actually completely different types of allergy because peanuts belong to the legume family, which is important information for anyone managing food allergy. Number 11, chestnuts. And they're actually quite different from every other nut we've talked about so far because they're much lower in fat and higher in carbohydrates, making them behave more like a starchy food than a typical nut. Chestnuts have a long history in Europe and Asia, particularly in Italy, where they were historically ground into flour and used as a staple food during times when grain was scarce. Chestnut trees produce spiky green husks that protect the nuts inside, and these husks are actually sharp enough to cause injury if handled carelessly during harvest. Chestnuts are rich in vitamin C, which is actually rare among nuts, since most nuts contain very little of this vitamin, and this makes chestnuts a unique addition to any diet, especially during colder months when they're traditionally roasted and eaten as a warm winter treat. Number 12, hickory nuts, and these are a bit more obscure, but absolutely worth knowing about. Hickory nuts are native to North America and were a crucial food source for various Native American tribes long before European colonization. The hickory tree is closely related to the pecan tree, which is actually a member of the hickory family, and hickory nuts have an extremely hard shell that requires significant effort to crack open, often needing a hammer rather than a simple nut crack. They're rich in healthy fats and antioxidants, and while they're not commercially farmed on a large scale today, they remain popular among foragers and wild food enthusiasts who appreciate their rich, smoky flavor. Number 13, tiger nut. And despite the name, they're not actually nuts at all. They're small tubers that grow underground, similar to how potatoes grow, but they've earned the nut classification in common usage because of their nutty flavor and texture. Tiger nuts have been cultivated since ancient Egyptian times, and archaeologists have actually found tiger nuts in Egyptian tombs, showing just how long humans have valued this food. Today they're grown primarily in Spain, Africa, and parts of the Middle East. Tiger nuts are incredibly high in fiber, more so than most other nuts on this list, and they're also naturally sweet, which makes them popular in a traditional Spanish drink called horchata. They're also completely allergy-friendly for people with tree nut and peanut allergies, since they belong to a completely different plant family. Number 14, kola nuts. And these have a fascinating cultural history, particularly in West Africa, where they originated. Kola nuts grow on evergreen trees and contain natural caffeine, along with other stimulant compounds, which is why they've traditionally been chewed for an energy boost. And interestingly, kola nuts were actually one of the original flavoring ingredients used in early cola soft drinks, which is where that name comes from. In many West African cultures, kola nuts are still exchanged as a gesture of hospitality, respect, and even during important ceremonies like weddings and community gathering, which shows just how deeply this nut is woven into everyday social life, far beyond just being a source of energy. Number 15, ginkgo nuts. And these are probably the most unusual entry here because they come from one of the oldest living tree species on Earth, the ginkgo tree, which has survived largely unchanged for over 200 million years, making it a genuine living fossil. Ginkgo nuts are most commonly used in East Asian cooking, especially in China, Japan, and Korea, where they're often added to soups, stir-fries, and even festive dishes during special occasions. Here's an important precaution though. Ginkgo nuts must always be cooked before eating, because raw ginkgo nuts contain a compound that can be toxic, especially in large quantities and even cooked. They should only be eaten in moderation, particularly by children, since their bodies process the compound less efficiently. Despite that caution, cooked ginkgo nuts are valued for their unique chewy texture and mild bitterness, and in traditional medicine, they've long been associated with supporting lung and respiratory health. And there you have it, 15 of the most powerful nuts on the planet, each one with its own story, its own origin, and its own set of benefits that make it worth having in your diet. From the everyday almond sitting in your pantry to the rare wild harvested Brazil nut from the Amazon, these small foods carry an incredible amount of history, culture, and nutrition packed into every single bite. If you learned something new today, let me know in the comments which nut surprised you the most. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this deep dive. Subscribe if you want more contentless, and I'll see you in the next video.